Hey everyone, this is episode 5 of Sales Stage, and we are going to be talking about a lot of things, but the meat of the episode is all about team identities. So, we're going to be asking Jimmy how he created a team identity, why he created one, what he looks for in a team identity, and how it helps the team. He's also going to be sharing a really secret but amazing life hack, and it's going to change your life every Saturday and Sunday only, I think. And
During
so,
October, during October only.
so stick around for that incredible life hack, and we hope to see you there. We'll see you when you hear it. We'll hear you when you see it on the podcast.
Nailed it. Oh, we're selling all the products and we're telling prospects what we got, yeah, we're selling. The next phase, we'll use lots of buzzwords. It's the next big craze. Jimmy and Reva show, welcome to the sales stage. Sales stage. Hey everybody, welcome back to our 5th episode of the Sales Stage. I'm Jimmy. I've got my co-host Reva. Say hi to everyone. Oh, you're holding up a mug. Cheers. Cheersing. It is Oktoberfest time here in Kitchener-Waterloo. So today we're going to recap. Our last episode was all around hiring best practices, things we look for. We got some wonderful feedback from, dare I say, our cult following. They've now started referring to themselves as stage crashers. That's what they call themselves, stage crashers. That's their words, not ours. This week we're going to cover off I think a really, I would say niche or unique topic. It's something that's I think very useful based on the times that we're living in and why it may be something for other companies to revisit, especially with kind of the digital first wave that we're seeing. So we're going to be talking about team building and building a team identity and really reinforcing a team identity. And we'll go through different pieces of that. We'll also have some cool stuff around what's the deal, right? What's the deal with something? And we're going to talk about musical choices when it comes to getting work done. And I'm sure Raven's going to provide us with some fabulous insight into that. Overall, we're super excited for you guys to listen/watch the vodcast. We're at 5 people. We are crushing it, I think.
I was really in my head of do I talk right now, or should I not talk so that it's all you, or should I be talking to bring it back to me? You know what I mean? Zoom.
Oh, because Zoom, so it'll show you. No, I think this is an us show, like I said. So I have a tendency to talk a lot. So you pipe in whenever. I'm never going to get mad.
Okay.
A classic joke we used to say on demos, hey, we're Canadian. If you interrupt, we'll probably say sorry.
That's true. And
boom.
That's not really true, but yes.
Super true. Actually,
it's a good joke.
The SC that we basically coined that whole term together. Just sent me a WhatsApp message. I'm not going to look, but he just did. Isn't that weird? Yes, it is super weird.
He just included you.
I'm worried I'm going to sneeze right now, so I'm trying not to. But we're just coming off of Canadian Thanksgiving, Reva. So how was your Thanksgiving? Tell the people what they want. Yeah, tell the stage crashers how your Thanksgiving was.
Yeah, we had Monday off and we did our Thanksgiving dinner Sunday. And I made a really good apple crisp.
I'm going to be honest, huge fan of apple crisp.
I think you would like this one. It was delicious. It was, what was it missing? It was it said it was a vegan apple crisp because I don't have dairy, but I don't really know why an apple crisp wouldn't be vegan. So I don't know An egg? No, there's no egg.
I've never made one, but I know that there's oatmeal
Yeah,
in it.
that's not dairy. So I don't
I
know.
don't know.
They were like the best apple crisp, and it really was good. So maybe I'll make some for you.
Please, yes. Like we love apple crisp and we'll eat it.
Okay.
And I will never say no to apple crisp. My mom, wonderful apple crisp. My mother-in-law, wonderful apple crisp. And we're not even talking banana bread yet. Like when we get into like banana breads, oh heavens.
Yes, that would be delicious. That would be hard to make dairy free, I think. But on Saturday, we went apple picking, and that's what we made the apple crisp with.
Oh, what a lovely family excursion that turns into something super productive.
Yeah, it was great. We got pumpkins too, and we decorated them. I don't know if you can see.
Yeah, like did you turn your pumpkin into a book rack? Is that what you're pointing at?
Yeah. Let me put some
Wow.
googly eyes on it. Yeah, you can't really tell, but my 2-year-old daughter, she did it.
I think that's awesome. We always do the pumpkin choosing, I guess it is. This year's a little bit different because it's like we try to get out there super early to kind of beat the crowd. But like I think all of us like have allergies and we always get hay bales and like you breathe in like a hay bale and like we get in the car and like our eyes are like watery. We're like instantly congested. But then we kind of, it looks nice and set it up outside. So super fun.
All for the looks. That's super funny that you guys all have allergies, yet you still get these things.
Yeah, well, it's funny because like I have allergy to like freshly cut grass, yet for like 4 years in university, I worked at a golf course cutting grass, but it was so worth it because like I love like cutting like nice striped lines. Like that is, I can't wait to retire because like I'm going to have the nicest lawn. Maybe
Yeah.
I say that before when we have a yard now, like halfway through the summer, my lawn is basically like hideous and people probably point at it to be like,
I don't believe
don't
you
do
on
this.
that. I feel like every time I talk to you in the office, you're like, yeah, I cut my grass. Like you're obsessed with cutting your grass.
I cut it. I cut it all the time. It's just like, for whatever reason, we had this like crazy weed this year that's like just progressively getting worse and not having a ton of rain didn't like drown it out. So it just got bad. Ended up, we hired someone on Kijiji to come and like rake up this weed. I'm so pathetic. But at any rate, it usually is like pancakes and I add like whipped cream and like make faces on the pancakes or whatever. My daughter asked me while we were getting up, can we have pumpkin pie pancakes? Well, Daddy had his thinking cap on and I knew we had pumpkin pie. So here's the life hack for our cult following of stage crashers. Take a piece of pumpkin pie and mix it into the pancake mix. Boom, pumpkin pie pancakes.
Jeez, that is ingenious.
It's I wouldn't go that far. I would say it's very like MacGyver.
Okay.
It's like piecing things together.
I feel like that's pumpkin spice season on another level.
Oh, it was, they actually, and it had like a really nice amount of the pumpkin flavoring. It wasn't like overkill. Like, you know, when you like, cause like we're obsessed with like pumpkin spice and like when you buy like tea or like we got like pumpkin spice coffee and it always smells so great, but it doesn't taste as good as it smells.
Yeah.
This had like a really nice aroma. And anyway, I'm talking like it's like a professional chef. Like it's, let's call a spade a spade. It was a joke, but it worked out well. So
that's great. Now you're just gonna have pumpkin pie in your fridge all the time so that you can always make these pancakes.
You would think so, but they don't last that long. Like I scarf down desserts, as does my daughter. My son is like really good.
Canned pumpkin puree and add it to your pancake mix. That's the life hack of this.
That is the life hack, but it's also like pancakes, once you put everything on, aren't the healthiest. So what we started doing is using like vanilla protein powder into the pancakes to make like protein pancakes. Why are we talking about? Let's get to the deal. Let's get to the deal review.
This is definitely not what the people signed in for.
No, like this has now been 25 minutes of Charlie's going to have his hands full when it comes to editing on this. So we got a deal review. And this is an interesting one. And this was kind of sparked because, looking back on the hiring piece that we talked about last week, sometimes I'll ask around, walk me through how you identified an opportunity with a company. What are you looking for? That type of stuff. And it often comes up where it's like, I look for companies who have received current funding. And I think back on when we had received funding 3 years ago or whatever it was. And some of the messaging that came in from that. And I know it's obviously a smart way to do it because that shows like growth or potential growth within accounts. I'm curious from your perspective, what is good messaging when it comes to, reaching out to different personas within companies around, the congratulatory piece on getting funding.
Yeah, I think that like what I always like to do is you have to first check the press release and read through the press release, because the press release along with the funding will have information on what they're going to be using that money for. So you don't just raise money just to have it, like you've got like plans for it. So it might be like, we're growing the sales team globally, or we are taking our first steps into the EMEA market, or R&D on new products, whatever it is. And you have to tie your value proposition, or like why you think this funding matters, back to their ultimate goals with the money. And then based on persona, you've got to like frame that into a challenge that persona likely has. Like if you're raising funding, you probably have a huge revenue target on your head if you're a head of sales or marketing. So how are you going to achieve these goals that are set out in the press release? If you can't do that with your product, then you're just like one of the salespeople who are like, hey, you've got $65 million and I would love some of it.
Some of that, if you don't mind. I remember it. One thing that stuck with me on I think it was a conversation I was having with a prospect at the time, or maybe a current customer. They said, when it comes to funding, most people say congratulations. I always say, and this is what the gentleman saying, he's like, I always say good luck, because when it comes to funding, now the stakes are raised, now the pressure cooker is on, and now the pressure starts to happen, right? And he was dead on with it. I remember, back then it's like, oh yeah, we celebrate, but then it's like, okay, now we're hyper focused and we've got to get this stuff done. So I remember like the whole pressure of the situation just gathered, and that stuck with me because I was like, hey, this guy's been there before. So really cool.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Good luck, not congrats. Yeah, you can celebrate it for a quick minute, but then
Yeah.
you're like, oh, okay.
And it wasn't just so we're all on the same page. It wasn't like one of those sarcastic, good luck, bud. It was like, good luck. Like, you guys are gonna have to get into it. So it was very authentic. I really liked it.
Yeah.
The second question, I don't even think we have a segment for this, but this I thought was super interesting, because I'll say from my perspective, a lot of the conversations I have, or a lot of the time I'm spending, is literally communicating with people. So I don't have the luxury that I used to, like sit down for like an hour and you turn on tunes and you get stuff done. Like that's done like in like little chopping blocks of like 10 minutes at a time to try and piece these things together. I'm curious from your perspective, do you have like certain musical choices that you do like for certain tasks, or like anything you can share with our viewers, our listeners, or whatever?
The stage crash. I can't with that joke. Okay. Yes, I love music. You and I both love music. I always remember in university, I took this psych class and they mentioned that when you're doing word oriented work, like writing, or basically reading, you can't really like listen to words too, like the TV or music with lyrics, because like your brain can only process one. You're either going to listen to the lyrics or you're going to like write well. So if I'm like doing like data stuff or reporting, I'll listen to music with words. But like if I'm trying to write emails or something, I probably have to put on something like trip hop, the Sandy Pell Tuesday stand up vibe. I like that type of music. But yeah, that kind of down tempo, because I find, I don't know if it's the same with you, but like music really messes with my internal energy. Like if I have music on all day, like I kind of feel like fried mentally. Like I need it like, I don't know. Is that crazy?
I don't I don't know. I think like at the end of every day I'm fried too, but I don't know if it's because like we've just been like nonstop working, and then before you start working, like you're parenting, and then your kids come home from school and you're doing it, and then by 8 o'clock you're like, what just happened? What happened today? I blacked out for a minute.
What do you
But
listen to if you have 30 minutes to stop being on a Zoom call? What are you putting on?
your answer was like so wise. Like I never thought of it that way, and maybe that's why like my emails are always have like grammar errors, because I'm listening to songs and I end up like writing the lyrics down into the email, and everyone's like, this makes no sense. I'm like, well, I didn't write that. I'm gonna check with Eric. I think my computer's messed up. But I I mean I'm typically like, it depends on what I'm trying to do. I always like I get excited because like I build like an agenda for like our team meetings, and we have like three separate like segment based meetings, and so like we'll build like an agenda. uh I'm more of like a folk kind of guy, so I always listen to folk. It's funny too because like my brother-in-law was talking to me about, I remember lyrics of songs all the time, and he's like, people interpret music differently. Like when I hear music, I'm always listening to like the music and the different instruments that are happening, where I'm like a lyrics person, so I always hear like the lyrics, and then so like I'm always listening to the lyrics, which is probably now based on your psychology example, like maybe a pitfall that I'm falling into, where it's like, yeah, Jimmy, like these are very poetically written things, but like it's not what we need for a team meeting. Like one word would do, and let's discuss that word. I don't need a full song written out for me here. But
Oh my God. Yeah. That is the tip. If anyone's getting anything out of this episode, add pumpkin pie mix to your pancakes and don't listen to songs with lyrics when you're writing.
yeah. All right. Well, I mean, I think that's enough to probably call it a thing, but we haven't talked about our main topic. So
No.
I know this is an interesting one, I think, for all teams. And looking back at some of the other episodes that we've done, this also like kind of goes into the fold, especially as the digital first is more of a reality, and I think people are treating it as more of a reality than ever. And with that poses a whole new set of challenges, and some of which we've talked about. And this has kind of come up, I think, more so as a way from building out culture, maintaining culture. It's changing, and we've got to find ways from like a camaraderie standpoint, or something to rally together as. And the idea of coming up with a team identity, which is something that we as a team take, and like this is how we live our day to day, and these are the things that we live by, and the perception of other departments within our establishment. Like this is what their expectations should be of us, and we've got to set the bar high and do that, because in kind of the performance or growth culture, what's great today is mediocre tomorrow, and we always have to continuously set that bar. So we went through an exercise, and we're currently going through an exercise as a sales leadership team in reshaping our team identity and the sales team identity. And I thought it'd be good for us to kind of chat through that.
Yeah, I like this topic a lot because when I joined Vidyard, when we joined, we were significantly smaller, right? And I was sold on the company culture. Sorry. And it seemed like everyone had the same, everyone lived by the culture, like everyone fit in very well. And as we grew, teams started to develop their own dynamics. Like, not to say it wasn't there when we were smaller, but it became more apparent. I feel like when we moved to the new office, more team segregation in the way our floors were mapped out, blah, blah, blah. But why do you think like a team identity is important? in a company when there's already an established culture like Vidyard, we have a culture that the leadership team and everyone down to the like top down cares deeply about that and living those values. But like, why is it important to have a team identity too on top of that?
I think it's a collaboration of both, right? Like you have, like anything, you have the hierarchy. Here's the overall, company's values and our mission statement, and your team identity's got to feed into that. And part of it is understanding. As sales is a little bit easier. This is all departments have to understand how they feed into the different core values and the big bets the company's making and what your role plays in that. That's one part of it. I think from a team dynamic, because what we're lacking now is actually being together in person and sharing those wins and losses as a group. We have to share them individually kind of around, and it's tough to have the same effect on each other as we did. And so I think the team identity piece is more so a way for us to reunite together and um, and leverage, not leverage, but basically live by um, these values as a way for us to like become closer. If that makes sense, it's like it's difficult to create a culture virtually.
Mm-hmm.
I'm finding it anyway. And
Mm-hmm.
so like, how can we make sure that everyone is on the same page and have the same expectations day to day for each other, from each other, and from the outside groups. Like, here's what you can bank on and rely on from the team, and that gives you a sense of team and something that we're all going towards a common goal, which isn't quite as broad. So it's like narrowing the focus down to, here's what we do day in, day out. Here's how we make decisions together. Here's who we consider. Here's how we build trust. All of that down into like a team framework.
Yeah.
And now everyone is aligned. And um, you know, that's kind of the idea behind it. Is, from my perspective on doing it. And it's just, a good way to do it, because you can feel not left out, but you're not surrounded by everyone anymore. So we need something to kind of grab onto and say like, this is us, and like let's do it.
Yeah, I really like what you said about um, building those, like creating those expectations of what you can expect from one another. Because in the office, it's easy to, it can be something as simple as you get like a passive aggressive response from a teammate when you ask for some help. But in the office, you can go by their desk and like razz them, or you can bury that hatchet really quickly. And now digital, it's like if you get that passive aggressive response, you're like, oh, did I, like, what do I do? Who else can I go to? And you hum on it a bit. Whereas when you create this team identity and you have these expectations, if one of your expectations is going above and beyond to help the team win, then you know that when you ask someone on your team for some help, you can expect them to come through for you. And that, like you said, the trust building, that's huge. When you're alone at home all day, the trust building in your team, it's so important to have, but like it's so much harder to build when you're all separated.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, right? Like, I think the other part to that is it's within your team, but it's trust building amongst other groups. Like, we need to each group needs to like be the example that's set. And so like, if we're dealing with, the customer success portion, marketing, solutions consultants, services, we need to have a bar that's set. Like, here's what you can expect day to day. And I think that can get lost. And when we look at communicating, and that's a whole other aspect, there's no tonality in text, right? Which is great for video, but someone could be being sarcastic, you take it the wrong way, then animosity builds for literally zero reason. And so it's difficult that way. So you're right, and that is one, another part that the expectation setting should be there, because if you're unsure, you fall back on that. This is how I would handle this situation.
For sure, yeah. I want to get into a bit about like how do you create a team identity, because I can think of someone going out and creating a team identity and like having a meeting one day with their team and saying, these are the things we're going to live by, like XYZ, and there's no like buy-in from the group. So you've created something of like you've gone through an exercise with your team recently. Can you talk about how did you create a team identity? How did you come to an agreement on something?
Yeah, like, so we're still in the midst, and I'll kind of take you through where we're at. So we, um, I know in talking with Dan, said, like, I think this is a good exercise for the whole sales team to do. And we've obviously got a couple of different arms within sales. And is there an opportunity for this identity to kind of sit on top of everyone, so everyone is kind of following the same set of expectations? Um, I think it's extremely important, again, being digital, that everyone has a voice and everyone has a say, right? And that's not in just this exercise, that's with product development. We've got to document everything, because certain features are super important to customers, but if that's not documented and product doesn't know that, it's just another feature. But so I digress on that piece. But what we did is, we had a Google sheet and said, like, we're looking for 5 pillars of our team identity, the things that are key pillars that we need to live by. And everyone went in and kind of listed, put their name beside it, had like a quick comment around it. And then from there, basically used a framework to then bucket them into like 4 main categories. And again, I think we've got a meeting at like 1. We'll kind of iron this out as a bigger group from the leadership side. I think we're going to talk about it. And then, so we've now got the foundation of it. And again, like, these are all things that feed into the overall. And Vidya is super transparent about, like, here's our mission statement, here's our goals, here's our big bets, here's how you need to align. So all these feed into that, and this is just a subset of it that's breaking it down into a further bucket and a little bit more granular as like how we are going to impact these. And then I've taken five folks from the team and asked them independently to write what our team's mission statement is. Like, these are the things that we live by. And again, hopefully they're not listening to music while they're doing it with lyrics in it, or maybe not. But and then they're going to come to the table in our team meeting this afternoon and kind of deliver them. And then as a group, we're going to decide what pieces of which we like, what makes the most sense, and how do we frame it. And then we've now collaborated as a group to get everyone on board with it, right? Because again, this is to act just as much as motivation for everyone to have something to be like, not living for. This is what we're doing every day, and this is why we're doing it. And I think it's good for everyone to ground themselves to think about that, because every day becomes very much, redundant at times, because you are potentially like very busy. You've got other things going on, and you don't stop to reflect on it. So, this is something that we can now deliver and be excited about, because this is ours.
Yeah, I like that it needs to have ownership from everyone. So I love that exercise of having a selection of reps. Well, first of all, having everyone kind of collaborate to see like what's important to everyone, like what should a team identity include, and then having mission statements written and shared by different people, because that ownership, even in sales, like when you're selling something to someone, it's easier to sell it to them if it feels like it's their idea, or they're bought into it, or they had a hand in creating the solution. It's just going to have a much more stickiness to it. So that's really cool. So like, I know you're in the midst of creating one right now, or doing this exercise, but like, from your perspective, what are some pieces of team identity that you find really important, especially for a sales team, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, there's like little sub buckets in there. I think part of it is like, um, individually the reps, what are the things that they need to be doing day in and day out, so that rep A is setting an example for rep B, and rep B is setting an example for rep A and C, and so everyone is continuously setting this example for each other. I think a lot of it remote right now revolves around, I'll talk about like 2 pieces. One is accountability. Schedules are going to vary based on what's happening, right? Like, some of us have kids, they come home from school. Some of us have kids in daycare, some of us don't. So from an accountability standpoint, like understand the roles and responsibilities in any given project, any given month from what the company's expectations from a quota standpoint are. They all understand that. It's like, an accountability, I'm going to hold the accountability for ensuring that this happens and giving the commitment that this is going to happen, and then being held accountable so that that does happen, right? Whether that's an internal team thing or that's dealing with, cross functionally within the organization. And the other piece, and we've had a couple of issues kind of arise that you just don't see coming. And I think part of it is an ownership piece, right? So I know I'm a big fan of the book Extreme Ownership, and part of that filters its way into it, because the energy should be spent creating the solution, not reflecting on the problem and letting that eat away at you. Right? It's like we're going to run into problems we don't foresee coming, and how do we take that energy into creating a solution so that the next time there's either rules of engagement, there's touch rules, there's a process or somewhat of a process in place to do it. And I know our team went through an exercise, I think it was at the start of the year, around complaining properly, right? So there's a framework. If you have a complaint, great, everyone needs to voice concerns. That's 100% something that has to happen, because we can't see everything. So we need to know things that work, that don't work. But it's like, what is a recommendation versus just a complaint? And so they follow a certain framework. If they want to lodge a formal complaint, there's some work that gets put in for them to identify, is this worth pursuing? Is there enough here, or is it, I took it the wrong way? And that forces the ownership on them. So they own the problem and they own the solution, right? And so when I talk about ownership, there's lots of pieces, and that does go into accountability, but that's a couple of pieces that I would pull out from this.
You talk a lot about accountability and ownership, and it's something I like, having someone like you who I talk to regularly who can remind me of this, because kind of like hitting me in the head right now. But I feel like maybe you worked on it, or maybe you are naturally like this, but you naturally take accountability. There are other people, I'll say myself, that I'm working on accountability and ownership. And I just finished going through like a training with Paul and Sean at Everest Performance, and they talk about accountability. And the way they talk about it is, the vibe I got from it is, when you are accountable, it's actually a very freeing feeling, because there's no confusion about who to blame. You take ownership of it. And like you said, that's not the end goal. The end goal is now, how do we solve this? But when you talk about creating examples on a team, if you have a team of people where ownership is the norm or accountability is the norm, it's kind of, it's contagious a bit, because if I notice a colleague of mine takes accountability for something, it like gives me the space to feel like, okay, when I make a mistake, because I will make a mistake, this is an environment where I can own up to it. And I think that's a tough thing, even in life, like raising kids, for instance. You can get mad at your child for coloring on the wall, or you can create a space for, when they make a mistake, they feel comfortable saying like, I colored on the wall, what do I do? But there's two ways to go about it, right? And if you go about it one way, you create this person who over time feels very defensive and probably very like scared to own up to something. But at work, that can become pretty toxic quickly, where if there's like finger pointing everywhere. So
yeah, it's the same. There's no different from personal to business, right? And it really revolves, and like, no, like I'm not perfect at it. Like, do I vent? Yeah, of course. Like who doesn't vent, whether it's work related, whether it's, me leaving messes all over the house all the time, that type of stuff.
And then blaming it on your child.
Yeah, no, I can't do that. They blame me for everything already, and I just take blame because that's what I do now. But it's a mind shift thing, right? And I think the more that when something happens, there's kind of two pieces to it. One, when something happens and you have this mindset, it doesn't matter the situation, or the pressure or what's at stake, you're very calm, because what you're doing is internalizing what I could have done differently for a different outcome to happen. And then what you're doing in that is you're figuring out where there was potential roadblocks, what potentially could have gone wrong, but it's always on me. So how could I have shifted something different? And so what that also then does is creates a constant learning environment where we're still very much so I would call us a startup, like a mature startup, right? We're going to have roadblocks all of the time, and for us to waste energy, one, we don't have time to waste energy arguing with each other, but two, right, like we need to make sure that we're figuring out solutions for things so that it doesn't happen again, right? And there's lots of things that are going to come up that we didn't anticipate. So we need to be in that mindset. And the more people that adopt that mindset where it's, I'm part of this, I think we're very fortunate, where we work right now, because everyone is very hyper focused on the company doing well, right?
Yeah.
And it's always, company first, team second, me third. That's the mindset that's already instilled, because everyone naturally just wants the whole business to do well. The whole business does well. I personally do well. My teammates do well. And I think that's part of building that kind of team culture. But
yeah, I think going back to hiring, and like we'll call back to our last episode, when you have a strong team identity that everyone's bought into, you can hire for that too. Because for sales reps, for instance, if you're new to hiring sales reps, you might hire on things that are teachable, whereas accountability, like taking accountability for your actions, might not seem related to sales, but if you can hire someone who takes ownership for things, that's a skill set that you're not going to have to worry about, and you'll know they mesh with the team, and the expectations the team will have of new reps joining, it's already there. But if you don't have a good team identity, you like risk the like hiring people that maybe won't mesh with your dynamics, and you won't win as much as a team.
yeah, well, and I know, like back in, and well, the hiring piece, and there's so much to hiring. I've always been a fan of athletes, because there are the intangibles that come with that, right? And a big part of the increased commitment from people means that there's going to be decisions made that you may not immediately agree with, but you have trust in the process, and you have trust that those making these decisions are doing it for the great of the team. And part of being a leader is proving that out to the team. But those are things that naturally in sport or high level anything, you have to put trust in leadership to make those decisions, and then you go out and you execute on what was asked, and ultimately hopefully it pays off, right? So yeah, that's just another little tidbit in there as well.
I was going to ask, like, how much is this influenced by you being part of a professional? Is it professional or?
Of course it's professional. It's not semi-professional. If you get paid, it's professional.
Okay, were you getting?
I was a professional paper deliverer because I had a paper route.
Just answer my question. Is the Kitchener Rangers a professional hockey team, or what language am I supposed to use right here?
I mean, I don't know. It's probably considered semi-professional.
Semi-professional. But how much of like experience on that team and like being part of a hockey team like that goes into like how you create your team identity and like what's important to you? Does a lot of it come from?
Well, it's not like that team, right? Like most kids like grow up in sport, whether it's hockey, baseball, basketball, soccer, chess, dance, right? Like dance is another great example where like, you put trust in your dance teacher to get you prepared to be able to execute in a competition to be the best, and you put the work in, right? But you're putting the trust in them to do so.
Yeah.
I think I probably put a little bit more stake in it before, just because like there are a lot of intangibles that come with it, right? And typically, like being in a team environment, like growing up, you already have that team bond where it's always the team first. That being said, like there's lots of pros that come with it. There's some cons that come with it. Again, it's around like the right person. Are they the right fit? What the team needs? Because if you already have the nucleus of the team that think that way, bring someone new in won't necessarily always jeopardize it. They can help form them and help shape them into that, right? And if you've got leaders within your team that do that naturally too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. Well, I mean, like 57 minutes. Good luck to Charlie. Enjoy that. We'll see you when you watch it.
You'll watch it when you see it.